the Kāśyapa Parivarta, or Kāśyapa chapter, from the Mahāratnakūṭa, which is a Mahāyāna Sūtra corpus known as the Great Pile of Jewels. These four, Kāśyapa, are counterfeit bodhisattvas. Which four? 1. The one who seeks for material profit and honors, not who seeks for the Dharma. 2. The one who seeks for fame, renown, and celebrity, not who seeks for good qualities. 3. The one who seeks for his own happiness, not who seeks for the removal of the suffering of beings. 4. The one who seeks for a group or company, not who seeks for solitude. These Kāśyapa are the four counterfeit bodhisattvas. These four Kāśyapa are genuine bodhisattva, good qualities of any bodhisattva. Which four? 1. He is firmly convinced of emptiness, yet he has faith in the law of the fruition of acts. 2. He tolerantly accepts non-self, and yet has great compassion toward all beings. 3. His intention is already abiding in nirvana, and yet his active application abides in samsara. 4. He gives gifts in order to mature beings, and yet he has no expectation of any fruition of the act of giving for himself. These Kāśyapa are the four qualities which are the genuine bodhisattva good qualities of any bodhisattva. To uphold the idea of permanence, this Kāśyapa is one extreme. To uphold the idea of impermanence, this Kāśyapa is a second extreme. The middle between these two, permanence and impermanence, is immaterial, cannot be designated, does not appear, is non-informative, unsupported, and placeless. This Kāśyapa is spoken of as the middle way, as true comprehensive examination of things. To uphold the idea of self, this Kāśyapa is one extreme. To uphold the idea of non-self, this Kāśyapa is a second extreme. The middle between self and non-self is spoken of as the middle way, as true comprehensive examination of things. To uphold the idea that the mind is real, this Kāśyapa is one extreme. To uphold the idea that the mind is unreal, this Kāśyapa is a second extreme. That which, Kāśyapa, there is no mind, no volition, no mentation, no consciousness, this Kāśyapa is spoken of as the middle way. To uphold the idea of existence, this Kāśyapa is one extreme. To uphold the idea of non-existence, this is a second extreme. It is not, Kāśyapa, that emptiness leads to the annihilation of personhood. Persons themselves are empty, and emptiness itself is empty. Absolutely empty. Empty in the past, empty in the future, empty in the present. You must rely, Kāśyapa, on emptiness, not on the person. However, those Kāśyapa who rely on emptiness with an objectification of emptiness I speak of as lost and vanished from this teaching. This speculation on the existence of the person in which one's reliance has been placed, be it as great as Mount Sumeru, is indeed better than the speculation on emptiness into which the conceited have settled. Why? Emptiness is the way out for those who engage in items of wrong speculation on the person. But by what means will they find a way out who hold to the speculations on emptiness? It is just like this, Kāśyapa. Should some man be sick, and should a physician give medicine to him, and should that medicine, having evacuated all his diseases, not itself come to be clean from his viscera, what do you think, Kāśyapa? Shall that sick man be freed of that sickness if that medicine, having evacuated all the diseases settled in his viscera, would not itself depart his viscera? Kāśyapa said, No, Blessed One. The disease of that man would be more serious if that medicine, having evacuated all the diseases, was settled in all his viscera and would not depart. The Blessed One said, Just so, Kāśyapa. Emptiness is the remedy for all items of wrong speculation, but then, Kāśyapa, one for whom emptiness itself becomes a wrong speculation, I speak of as incurable. It is just like this, Kāśyapa. Were a man frightened of empty space to howl beating his chest, and were he to say, Get rid of this empty space, what do you think, Kāśyapa? Is it possible to get rid of empty space? Kāśyapa said, No, Blessed One, it is not. The Blessed One said, Just so, Kāśyapa. I call those ascetics and Brahmins who are fearful of emptiness tremendously and mentally confused. Why? Since they, Kāśyapa, live fully in emptiness, and yet they are afraid of that very emptiness. Suppose a painter were to himself create a terrifying image of a yaksha, and frightened and scared by it, falling face down, were to lose consciousness. Just so, Kāśyapa, all foolish, common people themselves create material form, sound, smell, flavor, and tactile objects, and due to those they wander in samsara, and they do not understand those things as they truly are. People use the term ascetic, Kāśyapa. In how many ways, Kāśyapa, do they use the term ascetic? These ascetics, Kāśyapa, are of 4 types. Which are the 4? Namely, 1. The one who is an ascetic by virtue of his figure, outward form, distinguishing marks, and appearance. 2. The one who is an ascetic deceitful while guarding good behavior. 3. The one who is an ascetic interested in fame, renown, and celebrity. 4. The one who is an ascetic engaged in real, correct practice. These, Kāśyapa, are the 4 ascetics. Now, Kāśyapa, who is the one who is an ascetic by virtue of his figure, outward form, distinguishing marks, and appearance? Here, Kāśyapa, there will be someone who possesses the figure, outward form, distinguishing marks, and appearance of an ascetic. He is clothed in a monastic robe, with shaven head, grasping in his hands a fine begging bowl. Yet his conduct is characterized by impure bodily acts, impure vocal acts, and impure mental acts. He is unrestrained, unliberated, untamed, unpacified, unguarded, undisciplined, greedy, lazy, of wrong behavior, and he conducts himself in sinful ways. This, Kāśyapa, is the one who is an ascetic by virtue of his figure, outward form, distinguishing marks, and appearance. Now, Kāśyapa, who is the ascetic who is deceitful while guarding good behavior? Here, Kāśyapa, there will be some ascetic who is accomplished in acting well-behaved. He behaves circumspectly in all 4 modes of deportment, consumes coarse food and drink, is satisfied with the 4 saintly attitudes, does not mix with householders or renunciants, is one of little speech and few words. But those modes of deportment are feigned with deceit and boasting about his spiritual accomplishments. They are not for the sake of purification of the mind, nor for calming, nor for tranquility, nor for training. And he is one who holds to wrong speculations on objectification, and hearing that things are inconceivable because of emptiness, he feels as if he has confronted an abyss. He is displeased by monks who speak about emptiness. This, Kāśyapa, is called the ascetic who is deceitful while guarding good behavior. Now, Kāśyapa, who is the ascetic interested in fame, renown, and celebrity? Here, Kāśyapa, some ascetic upholds the discipline, having calculated, how may others know me to be an upholder of the discipline? He preserves what he has learned, having calculated, how may others know me to be very learned? He lives in a wilderness, having calculated, how may others know me to be a wilderness dweller? Calculatingly, he dwells with few desires, satisfied, apart. But he acts merely to deceive others, not for the sake of cultivating aversion to the world, nor for the sake of destruction of lust, not for the sake of cessation, not for the sake of tranquility, not for the sake of complete awakening, not for the sake of attaining the state of a true ascetic, not for the sake of attaining a state of true brahmana, nor for the sake of nirvana. This, Kāśyapa, is called the ascetic interested in fame, renown, and celebrity. Now, Kāśyapa, who is the ascetic engaged in real, correct practice? He is that monk, Kāśyapa, who is interested in his own body, and who is disinterested in his own body, and even in his own life, and not to mention in profit, reverence, or fame. Hearing the teaching of emptiness, the signless and the wishless, he is delighted at heart. He has understood thusness, and he lives a life of purity, being disinterested even in nirvana, not to mention in the delights of the triple realm. He is disinterested even in wrong speculations on emptiness, not to mention in wrong speculations on a self, living being, life force, human, or person. He takes the teachings as his refuge. He seeks the inward liberation from defilements. He does not run around outwardly. He sees all things as intrinsically extremely pure, undefiled. And he is an island unto himself. He is without any other island. He does not see the Tathagata even as the embodiment of the teachings, not to mention in a physical body. He is not attached to the teachings even as being free from lust, not to mention as being expressible within the scope of speech. And he does not imagine the monastic community of the saints even as unconditioned, not to mention as a gathering of assemblies. He does not exert himself for the removal of anything at all, nor for the cultivation, nor for the realization. He does not grow forth in samsara. He does not delight in nirvana. He does not seek liberation, nor the bondage of this world. Knowing that all things are intrinsically in the state of parinirvana, he does not circle in rebirth, nor does he enter parinirvana. This Kāśyapa is called the ascetic engaged in real, correct practice. One should exert oneself toward attaining the state of a true ascetic through real, correct practice. One must not allow oneself to be injured by being called by the name ascetic. These Kāśyapa are the four ascetics. Then once again the Reverend Mahākāśyapa said this to the Blessed One. It is wondrous, Blessed One, it is wondrous, Sugata, how beneficial this King of Sutras, the Mahāratnakūṭa, is to those gentle sons and gentle daughters who have just set out on in the Mahāyāna. How much merit, Blessed One, will that gentle son or gentle daughter produce who would teach even a single verse from this King of Sutras, the Ratnakūṭa? When thus asked, the Blessed One spoke as follows to the Reverend Mahākāśyapa. That gentle son, Kāśyapa, or gentle daughter, might smash into atomic dust particles, world realms, as numerous as the sands of the river Ganges, and having smashed them, might disperse them, just so many of them, and filling all of the world realms, so many as those particles of dust, full of the 7 jewels, he might give them as a gift to the Tathagatas, Arhats, perfect and complete Buddhas. And for each one of those Tathagatas among the Buddhas, blessed ones, as many as the sands of the river Ganges, he might make monasteries as many as the sands of the river Ganges. And he might serve the community of innumerable auditors of each one of those Tathagatas among the Buddhas, blessed ones, as many as the sands of the river Ganges, with all the requisites for happiness for eons, as many as the sands of the river Ganges. And in order to devoutly serve those Buddhas, blessed ones, throughout his whole life with pleasing bodily acts, vocal acts, and mental acts, he might smash world realms as numerous as the sands of the river Ganges into so many atomic dust particles, and having smashed them might disperse just so many dust particles. And filling all the world realms equal to that number full of the 7 jewels, he might give them as a gift to the Buddhas, blessed ones. And in order to devoutly serve them throughout his whole life with pleasing bodily acts, vocal acts, and mental acts, he might reverence, respect, honor, and worship so many Buddhas, blessed ones, even as numerous as the sands of the river Ganges, and when they have entered nirvana, he might construct stupas for them made of the 7 jewels. Yet, if a gentle son or gentle daughter would take even one verse from this King of Sutras preached by all the Buddhas, the Mahāratnakūṭa, and would uphold it, then the mass of merit of the former activity does not approach even 100th part, or even 1,000th part, or 100,000 billionth part of the massive merit of this latter act. It is not liable to calculation, or measure, or reckoning, or comparison, or to likening, and if one might hear it, and having heard it, might not reject it, then this would produce a tremendously great mass of merit. And if a woman were to hear it, or were to have it written down, or were to master it, she would never fall into unlucky existences. Her current existence would be her last as a woman. And when this discourse on the doctrine, the Ratnakūṭa, is expounded, or taught, or written, or copied, or exists in book form on a certain spot of earth, then that spot of earth becomes a shrine for the world together with its gods. And should one hear, or take up, or copy, or comprehend this discourse on the doctrine from a certain preacher of the teaching, then he must generate such a respectful attitude towards the preacher of the teachings, just like Kāśyapa towards the Tathagata. One who will reverence, respect, honor, and worship a preacher of the telling will, at the moment of his death, be able to see the Tathagata. Through seeing the Tathagata will he obtain 10 purities of bodily action. What are the 10? They are, namely, 1. He will die with a mind not overcome by painful feelings. 2. He will not experience quivering of the eyes. 3. He will not undergo trembling of the hands. 4. He will not undergo trembling of the feet. 5. He will not void excrement. 6. He will not void urine. 7. He will not sweat from his chest. 8. He will not clench his fists. 9. He will not clutch at empty space. 10. He will abandon the vital principle in a sitting position. he will obtain those 10 purities of bodily action. He will obtain 10 purities of vocal action. What are the 10? They are, namely, 1. Melodious speech, 2. Smooth speech, 3. Sweet speech, 4. Pleasing speech, 5. Gentle speech, 6. Uncontradicted speech, 7. Agreeable speech, 8. Commendable speech, 9. Speech deserving of being received by gods and men, 10. Speech deserving of being received by the Buddha. He will obtain these 10 purities of vocal action. He will obtain 10 purities of mental action. What are the 10? They are, namely, 1. He will not be angry. 2. He will be free from rancor. 3. He will not conceal his own transgressions. 4. He will not be tormented by regret. 5. He will not be pleased by faults of others. 6. He will not be pleased by being hostile. 7. He will not have perverse ideas. 8. He will be vigilant in exertion. 9. He will grasp the purified Buddha field with an intrepid mind. 10. Without pride or arrogance, he will obtain the concentration, which is the complete realization of all the Buddha's teachings. He will obtain those 10 purities of mental action. Whoever, Kāśyapa, wishes to reverence me with all the requisites for happiness, wishes to worship me with all forms of worship, should take up this discourse on doctrine, the Mahāratnakūṭa, should master it, should write it down, should recite it, should explain it. Then, Kāśyapa, this will become the unexcelled worship of the Tathagatas, Arhats, perfect and complete Buddhas.